Fathers of Reddit. In honor of Father's Day, what was your "don't tell your mother about this" moment? Female coworker of mine was miserable at work one day. I asked her what was wrong. She told me it was her anniversary, and she knew her husband had forgotten. She had preteen girls at home during summer vacation. I knew her home phone number. Pre-cell phone era. I called her home phone and one kid picked up. Explained to the kid who I was and that she needed to call Dad at work and remind him it was Mom and Dad's anniversary. And don't tell Mom or Dad I called. The next day she was all smiles. Gosh, he did remember. Brought home flowers and took her to dinner. Mission accomplished. Not a word was ever said about this until 6 years later, when she left the company. She gave me a hug at a farewell luncheon and whispered, "My kids ratted you out. Thank you. You." One night I was enjoying a small bit of ice cream after my 4-year-old daughter went to bed. She came downstairs and caught me, so I offered her a small bite. But since she was supposed to be in bed, I said, "Don't tell Mom." She wouldn't. My wife wouldn't have cared anyway, but it was a fun little game to play. After she went up to bed and I was down on the couch, she snuck into the master bedroom where Mom was resting. She told Mom that I had let her have some ice cream, and she was afraid of sugar bugs, so could she please brush her teeth again. My wife just laughed at me the next day. Little S ratted me out to brush her teeth, something she doesn't like doing anyway. When Elle was 12 or so, I walked into my dad's office to find him counting money. He says, "Don't tell Mom and you'll find out what it's for." So I don't say a thing. 2 days later he wakes me up early to run errands with him. We came back with a new for us car. He also said if I don't tell how much he spent on it, he'll let me drive it. It was only a couple $100, but we were broke and she would have been mad. My mother tried so hard to find out, but I kept the secret. So anytime we were in an open space like an empty lot, he would let me drive it. I felt like the coolest kid in middle school knowing how to drive a car. Again, don't tell your mother, he says. It was our secret thing and I'll cherish those memories forever. When I got my permit at 16, I was so excited to drive it for real. I ask my mother if I can drive her around when she has to go out, but she says absolutely not since I have no experience. Well, I can't argue because I don't want to get Dad in trouble. This goes on for a few weeks. I keep asking, she keeps telling me no. This finally happened one day while Dad was home and overheard. He comes in the room, gives me a nod and says to my mother, "She's a better driver than you anyway." Tosses me the keys and tells Mom everything. I was so stoked and cheering. I can drive. I can drive. Dad says, "Drive it?" No. If you can keep a secret for that long, you can keep the car too. 20 years later, it's still one of my favorite memories. Edit. Wow. I love you guys. This memory made me so happy while sharing, and even happier to see all of your responses. To answer some questions. It was a 95 Geo Tracker. My mom was expecting me to get driving experience taking a driver's ed course I was signed up to attend a few weeks down the line. Mom was not mad. She was surprised is all. We didn't keep it from her because of her expected reaction. I suppose it was just more fun to have a secret between only us. My dad absolutely is an awesome dude. I am so very lucky to have had him and to still have him. The greatest gifts he gave me were not material. It was his time and attention. I have so many amazing memories with him just doing regular stuff. He has the best sense of humor and is a genuinely good human. I strive to be like him as a parent and as a person. One night when I was about 8, after I had gone to bed, my dad was playing a Nintendo game. Legend of Zelda, I think. We had both been playing it, but we were stuck. He finally found a secret passage, paused the game, and came upstairs to wake me up. He told me he figured out where we were stuck, snuck me downstairs in a blanket. I'm sure my mom knew. and I got to stay up after midnight on a school night, hiding under a blanket, to see where the hidden passage went. It was a silly little incident, but very memorable. Edit. Wow. It's one of those blew up overnight situations. Thank you all for the awards and sharing your own versions of the story. I'm glad this warmed so many hearts. Edit 2. Don't read if you don't want the feels ruined. A few asked about my relationship with my dad. We actually weren't that close, and still aren't, because reasons. But this story stands out in my memory not just because it was awesome and wholesome, because it wasn't like him. Edit 3. As to the specifics of the game, secret passage. After some Googling, I can't find a Zelda-related secret that matches my memory. I recall a path that is going east then turns south. To the right there's an ocean. And if you just keep going east instead of turning south, there's a hidden path where you can walk over the ocean. We played several similar games with that old top-down view. Could have been Dragon Warrior, 8 Ice, or so many others. Maybe someone on here can figure it out. Edit 4. Thanks to the hive mind for figuring out it was Zelda 2. When you get the water boots and can walk over the water to get to the ocean palace. It's great to fill in the gaps of a nice childhood memory. My dad and I, around 5 years old, were on our way home from a car show when we were getting followed by the cops. My dad struggled to put on his seatbelt quickly in hopes he wouldn't get a ticket. Unfortunately, we got pulled over. This might have been the first time ever that I saw a cop this close up, let alone speak to one. I was a deer in headlights the whole time. Well, with a cop on either side of the car. The officer leaned in and asked my dad why he was swerving. That dick told the cops I was tickling him. The cops looked at me straight in the eyes and asked if this was true. I was too scared to say anything and just nodded yes. The officer smiled and said, "Never to do that again while your father is driving." Okay, they left without any further words and my dad gave me the lecture of don't tell your mom. TLDR, Dad and I get pulled over when he tried to get his seat belt on. Blamed it on me tickling him instead. Not a father but a son. We forgot my passport during vacation and were already at the border station when we noticed. My dad then said that we won't turn back but that he will figure something out. Turns out he smuggled me successfully across 3 border crossings without my passport. Before we arrived at home, he told me not to tell my mom about this. How the hell did he manage that? Stuff you in a suitcase. Dad and I used to rent a movie each week for when Mom had dinner with friends. Usually things like Star Trek or action films. One day, I was about 11, he came home with Blade. We got about 10 minutes in and he turns to me and said, "Don't tell your mother about this." Let's just say I forgot to get it this week. Of course I agree. Fast forward 7-ish years. Dad blithely drops at the dinner table the fact that we watched Blade when I was about 11. Silly Dad thought there was some kind of statute of limitations on this. When my 3-year-old wakes up in the middle of the night, like maybe 3 times a month, instead of putting her back to sleep, okay, her stay up and partake in whatever it is I am doing, no matter what. Sometimes she falls asleep in minutes and sometimes she stays up for a couple hours. I think it's amazing times. I think it may even be dreamlike for her by the way she speaks and moves. She has painted with me, heard my books read aloud, watched Lord of the Rings and cooked creme brulee. The rule is, it's my time, so if she's gonna be with me she does what I'm doing just like I do for her all day long. She totally gets it and never makes it about her. My goodness. Thank you everybody for your comments and your awards. What a special day to be recognized as a father. I was in middle school. My father gradually bought computers and monitors for us 4 kids and himself, and the 5 of us would play World of Warcraft together for many days and always log off 1 hour before Mom got home. We'd rush all the chores in that 1 hour. That's when we had teamwork at its finest. She never knew we all played cause she thought it was the devil. Edit. I've never had 1K plus upvotes before. I can't wait to show my dad how much love he's getting on Father's Day. Thank you. Happy Father's Day everyone. Edit. To thank for my first award. My dad doesn't have Reddit, but he'd say this. I have always worked in restaurants and get home late nights. On Fridays I treat myself to takeout. Not just any takeout. The bad stuff. Cheese fries topped with gyro meat. Steak nachos with guac. Always a large. Always with a big bottle of beer they sell singly. When my girls were little they would sneak down late at night and we would munch bad food and watch really bad funny movies with all the swear words in. That's really endearing. Not exactly because we were caught in the act, but here we go. When I was 10 years old, I was in a head-on car crash with my dad and my little brother. My dad ended up with 2 shattered feet and he was in a wheelchair after getting out of hospital. Now my dad did stereotypical dad things around the house before this happened, and being stuck in a wheelchair was difficult for him. One day while my mom was out, it was just the 2 of us in the house. Suddenly I'm being called by my dad to go grab the lawnmower and the trimmer. My dad had decided to cut the grass while in his wheelchair. So 10-year-old me does as she's told and grabs what needs to be grabbed and plus everything in is told. I move what needs to be moved into the garden, but there's one problem. Dad can't get into the garden in his chair. The entrance is just too narrow. So my father, being the reckless and mischievous man that he is, comes up with a plan. He's going to lift himself up using the garden wall. I'm to collapse the chair and move it through and then reopen it so he can sit down. The pressure is on. Little 10-year-old me is ready to go. He gets himself up and we manage it in one try. After that, cutting the grass together was fairly simple, but by this point we'd attracted the attention of the neighbors. My neighbor from across the road was frantic when she saw what we were doing. Husbands from other households were joking my dad was making them look bad. Then, the jig was up. Mum was home. I didn't get into trouble exactly, but Mum never let us live down. Edit. Spelling. Edit. So this kinda blew up. Thank you for the awards. I'm gonna show my dad all the comments tomorrow. I'm sure he'll appreciate so much talk about his balls. TLDR, my wheelchair-bound father made me an accomplice in his garden mowing escapades. When my son was 6, I was playing Grand Theft Auto late at night. He wakes up and comes to the living room, tells me he can't sleep, and asks can he watch me play. I say he can, but not to tell his mom. He agrees with a big smile. Maybe after about an hour he is playing and I'm watching and helping him. He can't stop laughing, driving into people and running from the cops. I was telling him to watch out for the 5-0 and he asks me what that means. So I tell him it's the cops. He just shrugs and keeps playing. Now fast forward about a week later and we are all driving in the car. All I hear is a scream of "Dad, watch out, it's the 5-0. And I absolutely start crying from laughing so hard, all while his mother is questioning where he learned that. He just says, YouTube. She found out later that I let him play GTA. But I hope the memory of that is as special to him as it is to me. When I was in middle school, I was the only one willing to go shopping groceries with my dad. He didn't want to go alone and my mom was at school studying her master's. None of my siblings wanted to go with him. We used to go to Carl's Jr., have a big breakfast, and then we went grocery shopping. Nobody knew, not even my mom, until years later. He would also let me buy any cereal I wanted. That's actually how I learned how to buy good fruit and veggies, how to order meat and fish, etc. When my siblings found out, they were angry. They would have gone if a big breakfast was on the menu. My mom just laughed. Nowadays they sneak to have breakfast together before going grocery shopping since we're all grown up. Edit. Thank you so much for the award, Party Popper. In the winter, He would put the toboggan behind the four-wheeler and take us out into the fields and ride around. My mom found out after it tipped and my face got beat up and was bleeding everywhere. Fun. Edit. A toboggan is a sled in the use of item you slide down on in the snow. Edit 2. Whoever gave me an award. Thank you. Thank you so much.